Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another live stream. Thank you so much for joining me for another live stream. As usual, we'll give ourselves a minute just to make sure everything's up and running before we begin our live stream tonight. I hope everyone's doing well. Oh, that worked quickly. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another live stream. Thank you so much to all of our members, subscribers, our daily live streamers, moderators, and all of the new subscribers and viewers as well. Welcome to another live stream. Thank you so much for joining in. And tonight, we're going to be talking about something very interesting and funny at the same time. More divisions. I mean, we've been speaking about the divisions from day one, really, and the fights, and we have more of them. I posted a couple of videos earlier on. For those of you who haven't watched them, you can go ahead and view them after this live stream. One of them was around the unprecedented, in the specific combination that we had today, unprecedented and very intense day that we had in Gaza. It's not the fiercest day, but it was exceptionally devastating for Israel today from multiple resistance movements in Gaza, and Israel suffered a lot of losses in Gaza. And I also gave my opinion around the Trump-Biden debate on CNN and my view on their approach with Gaza, and I think they're both equally as bad, almost, minor differences, but both of them get Zionist money, and both of them look for ways to please the people who pay them. So there is no big difference between them when it comes to Palestine. I mean, some people support Trump more than Biden. Biden is tried and tested now, but also don't forget what Trump did before. We didn't have a very big escalation when Trump was there, not to this level, obviously. And he still caused lots of problems, moving the embassy that led to unnecessary bloodshed. And doing many things that serve Israel. The man isn't interested in the Palestinian people and is only interested in the people who fund him. And tonight I wanted to talk to you obviously about this latest report from Israel about the recent fight, really. I mean, you can call it a fight. I mean, they didn't hit each other, but it was a fight between the IDF chief and Bezalel Smotrich. Now, ever since in the series of all of the problems that we have in Israel that I wanted to talk with you about. Give me just 1 minute to clear something up here. Just a second. Yeah, looks like we're there was a bit of a problem. Yeah, I hope everything's fine now. It looks like it's fine. So this report was in the Israeli newspaper Ynet. Basically, there was a cabinet meeting. In this cabinet meeting, obviously the IDF chief is there, Netanyahu is there, Gallant is there, and Smotrich is there. Now, apparently, the IDF chief, he had a dig. He had a dig a couple of weeks ago on ministers in the Israeli government. And today, it looks like it was the payback. It was the payback during a meeting in the war cabinet. You don't want me to tell you who slept on the 6th of October. This is what Smotrich is telling the IDF chief. During tonight's cabinet meeting, a sharp confrontation developed between Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich and Chief of Staff Herzi Halevi. Quote, you don't want me to say who slept here on October the 6th. Chief of Staff stood up in a very unusual way and shouted. Very unusual way, began to shout and saying, take it back, right? Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, who participated in the meeting after his return from his visit from Washington, also stood up, stood next to Halevi, and he directed his speech at Benjamin Netanyahu. So he was standing up for the Chief of Staff, Yoav Gallant, who's the Defense Minister and who is a member of the Likud party that Benjamin Netanyahu leads. He told Netanyahu, you cannot allow the cabinet ministers to join the IDF and the Shin Bet on a regular basis, as in lash out at them. You cannot allow them to lash out at them in such a manner. This is a serious phenomenon that has never happened before, and it puts Israel at risk during war. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu preferred not to condemn Smotrich outright, saying both the Chief of Staff statement 2 weeks ago and Smotrich's statement tonight are unacceptable. And he was referring to the statement from the Chief of Staff. According to the reports, he said in that meeting, responsibility is not something that is understood here too much. A dig at the government, like there aren't people who understand here a lot. Obviously that's aimed at Netanyahu, it's aimed at Smotrich, it's aimed at everyone. And according to reports in Israel, about 1 hour later, Smotrich apologized, because obviously they took it seriously. This debate was preceded by an exchange between the Justice Minister, Yariv Levin, and also the Chief of Staff. Levin criticized the army and claimed selective enforcement in Area B in the West Bank, or what they call Judea and Samaria. He was criticizing the enforcement, what they do over there. Clearly, there are big problems between Smotrich and the Chief of Staff when it comes to the West Bank, especially with the recent authorities given to Bezalel Smotrich in the West Bank. Levin said it doesn't matter if they also have enforcement to Area C, recording the decision that they enforce laws like the Jews, that's enough. Chief of Staff is saying these are soldiers who endanger their lives and do not harm anyone. They are fighting terrorism. Smotrich then responded, I suggest you lower your tone. I suggest you lower your tone, as we are committed to security as you are. And there was another kerfuffle between them. The Smotrich office responded that there are leaks from the cabinet that are sick and evil, and they harm security, clearly signaling that there are more leaks. Now, with regards to the leaks, Benjamin Netanyahu previously was security checking the Chief of Staff, and he was infuriated by that one day. So Benjamin Netanyahu wasn't trusting his Chief of Staff in fear of the fact that he could be recording him, what's happening in the meeting, using it against him, especially because he views him as a person who could be potentially leading a coup against him. His wife was saying, the military is preparing a coup. Anthony Blinken tried to meet him privately, Four Eyes meeting, and obviously Netanyahu's government prevented that. He also criticized Halevi, telling him outrageous, and you had an inappropriate statement. Many things that you say are untrue. Unfortunately, instead of taking responsibility and apologizing, the chief of staff fortified his position and attacked Minister Smotrich. That's the continuation of the office of Bezalel Smotrich's statement. Then they said this led to difficult exchanges in words. Difficult exchanges in words. Then we had criticism from the head of the Shin Bet. And that was aimed at, again, the government for taking measures against the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank that people in the Israeli security establishment view as a very loyal authority. And obviously, Israel is not passing money to them, freezing certain things. They're allowing more expansion of the settlements, illegal settlements in the West Bank. The head of the Shin Bet was telling them it's not the time to take action against them. Because many people are worried in Israel that any hostile action against the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank would lead to devastating problems. They're already facing very severe resistance in the West Bank that's surprising everyone. As a matter of fact, the ambush that they had in Jenin the other day was considered to be the largest attack in 20 years in the West Bank, but clearly the government is not listening. What do we understand from this fight that broke out between them, this altercation between the IDF chief staff and Smotrich? Clearly, nothing is being resolved. The same tensions that we had from day one are still there. In the beginning of the war, Benjamin Netanyahu couldn't even have a joint press conference with his cabinet members, with Gallant, with Gantz. They had lots of shouting matches. At one point, it almost led to actual fighting between the security of each person. They had to cancel meetings previously in the middle of the war, this existential war, what Israel calls an existential war. They had meetings and they had so many tensions and they had to cut them short, not reach any decisions, not reach any conclusions. And all of that obviously is in the favor of Benjamin Netanyahu. Why? Because Benjamin Netanyahu can later say, oh, well, we haven't agreed on anything. I am technically the head of the state. I call the shots, and whatever I want will happen. And he will let people like Smotrich and others bark. Obviously, he's backing them. But it's them who are making these statements. And Benjamin Netanyahu is sitting there as if he doesn't know anything. Another thing that we understand from here, that we also emphasize from the beginning, really, is the undermining of Benjamin Netanyahu to the security establishment in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu even had a patronizing approach towards the head of the Mossad, who belongs directly to his office. He previously prevented him from going and having these negotiations in Qatar. He told him, you can't go. He prevented Yoav Gallant, who's the defense minister, from speaking with the head of the Mossad and the head of the Shin Bet. He didn't trust them to a level. The negotiating delegation formed out of the top security establishment representatives in Israel, led by the head of the Mossad. He sent his representatives from his office to the negotiations with Qatar and the US and Egypt to make sure they follow everything to the T. He even told the leaders of the negotiating delegation, again led by the heads of the security establishments in Israel, you don't know how to negotiate, you don't know how to deal with Hamas, only I know how to deal with them. And again, in any functioning country, even if you're the prime minister and even if you have the full authority eventually, you can't take a hostile approach towards the heads of the security establishment in such a manner, because all of that hinders how the war is run. And you're talking about people who spent all of their life in these establishments. Yet Benjamin Netanyahu has this approach with them. He doesn't care. It's either what he wants or nothing. And this is what I wanted to share with you in this live stream. Let me open up the space for all of you to check all of your comments. And if you wouldn't mind, if you have anything for me, if you wouldn't mind highlighting it, I'm going to try and get back to the beginning. If that's possible. Usually YouTube doesn't allow me to do that. And Terry Lynn Nelson, thank you so much for your super thanks. Hi Mahmoud Salam, good to see you and thank you for your reporting. Thank you, and good to see you as well, and good to see everyone as well. Thank you so much, Terry, for that. I really appreciate it. That was from Terry. And let's see what we have here. Eileen, yeah, you're saying it exactly as it is, Eileen. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome, yeah, or a different result. Absolutely, 100%. And they've been doing the same thing. As a matter of fact, if they're doing the same lethal things, there's a difference between doing something many times, repeating something that has no losses, number one, or has maybe a small financial loss or something. But you're talking about lethal mistakes. The man is repeating the same things that are causing deaths to his own civilians. They're claiming to be protecting the Israeli people. He went on a full-blown genocidal campaign with barbaric bombardment indiscriminately exactly where the Israelis are. He knew that they were being killed. They gave orders to their army to kill everyone going back from Israel to Gaza. They knew that. But even if they wanted to act like they didn't know, they continued with the bombardment of Gaza, and they saw that people were being killed. And then they continued bombing them. They sent their troops there. They were dying. And they still sent them there. Today, when I spoke about Shuja'iyya ambush today, again, they went to the same area where they had the most lethal attacks, or at least some of the most lethal attacks that they faced from the Palestinian resistance in recent months. They went there again. They deployed Division 98 forces in a Shuja'iyya again, and they faced the same thing. Booby-trapped buildings, tunnels, burying their own soldiers inside them. Many helicopters seen coming to the scene and evacuating the casualties. Talal, Mansour, Egypt and Saudi Arabia have been quiet about the war machine continuously striving to start another front in Lebanon, let alone Gaza. How do you explain their complicit support? They would like to see Hezbollah probably being hit, especially Saudi Arabia, more so than Egypt. In Egypt, if you listen to many of the pro-government analysts in Egypt, they have the same defeated mentality. You know, the mentality that will justify everything, undermine what the resistance is doing. Oh, you know, Hamas is really hurt. Hezbollah, you know, they're going to face a lot of problem because America's going to do this and that. Defeated mentality, because they want to justify their inaction, their shameful positions. Saudi Arabia, they have a far bigger feud with Hezbollah than Egypt, especially in Lebanon. Because Saudi Arabia wants to be seen as one of the moderate influencers in Lebanese politics, right? They always try and have more. And listen, there have been reports again from Lebanon that they take direct action against the resistance in Lebanon. So they've been quiet, and as a matter of fact, it's not that they've been quiet. They've been working on the opposite side. They've been talking all sorts of bad stuff about the resistance, using obviously their media, using their scholars to give it a religious justification even in Saudi Arabia. So it's not surprising. And obviously, again, when you talk about some of the Arab states that are surrounding Israel, any victory for the oppressed people, whether they're the Palestinian people or people leading, move for change, they don't want that. Why? Because that sends a message to their own population. Egypt obviously had a lethal crackdown on the protests, on an elected government. Saudi Arabia, very similar. You live in a full-blown dictatorship in Saudi Arabia. And don't mind the visual things that they might change, and you might see a few things that are positive here and there. But at the heart of it, you're talking about corrupt authoritarian governments. And that was from Talal. Maria A., thank you so much for your kind feedback. And everyone else as well. Terry Lynn Nelson is saying, do you have any thoughts about why do we not have true leaders, but a lot of arrogant, narcissistic old men who seem to want to destroy the world? Is this new or am I just realizing it? No, it's not new. And it's a representation of how it works, of how what's called as democracy works. Obviously, if we talk about Arab states, or some of the Arab states, they don't hide that they are not democratic or that are just playing with democracy. In Western countries, they play it smarter. They play it as if they are the defenders of democracy. And at the heart of it, they fight it to the last second. They fight human rights. They fight individual liberty. They fight social justice. And they despise democracy, but they act like they like it. And much of it is motivated by money, greed, and control, obviously. That's why you see them spreading wars instead of trying to reach resolutions, to support the military-industrial complex, to support the people who benefit from wars, because people don't just benefit from the military-industrial complex, but that's its own story, by the way. It's so strong, the military-industrial complex. But people benefit from financing, people benefit from the rebuilding, people benefit from projects, people benefit from the energy sector in these countries. The pharma industry benefits from all of the cannon fodder troops that they send to foreign countries and go back with all sorts of PTSD, with lifetime medication. So you have a lot to it. And obviously they will portray it in a manner to the population as if nothing is happening, by not talking about it as much, and by shifting and diverting the attention of the population to less important and not substantiated things that not only go with common sense, but will go against science in many cases, by pointless debates, societal debates, or pointless causes that are based on assumptions rather than facts, things that are debated in the scientific community even. And it's not new. It isn't new. And that was Terry Lynn Nelson. Thank you so much for that question. And thank you to everyone who's sending super thanks as well. Blank Stares, thank you so much. Someone Somewhere. Ibrahim, thank you so much, my brother. And Anwar, thank you so much for your super thanks. We'll start off with Blank Stares. A Blank Stare saying thank you, Mahmoud, for your work. Question, have you heard anything about the Mossad being in the Pentagon in the US? I saw YT title to that effect. I don't know whose video it was. Well, if they don't have to physically be there, all you need to realize is what the Pentagon is doing and who is it serving. It is known now that AIPAC, a Zionist organization, controls who your next president is. So it doesn't matter if they're in the Pentagon, if they're not in the Pentagon. If the top people in the country are bound by a foreign entity, a foreign genocidal, ugly entity, then imagine how infested the others are, other organizations in the country. Someone somewhere is asking me, can you elaborate on the Moroccan worship? Moroccan worship, Moroccans allowing worship in. Which worship? I haven't heard of that. Let me have a look. Morocco allows Israeli worship to dock after Spain refused. Oof. Well, it shows you the government in Morocco. Israel has been increasing its ties with Morocco. Benny Gantz was there not long ago, and they have been increasing their security ties with the Moroccan government. And it's not surprising. Another shameful Arab state. I mean, it's not surprising. Some European countries have far better positions than some of the Arab states surrounding Israel. And even a country like Morocco, where you have the majority of the population supporting the Palestinian cause so much, shows you how much they represent their people. Ibrahim, salam brother, and thanks for your existence. Thank you, my brother. I wonder how you think that Israelis' internal conflict will affect potentially war with the heroes Hezbollah. Love to you and all of your viewers. Much love back, my friend. Thank you so much for this. I think that the internal conflicts are already making changes in Israel, because we're hearing certain statements. And again, listen, even as someone who observes it constantly, it can be confusing. It can be confusing because now you heard Yoav Gallant and Benjamin Netanyahu saying that there's an opportunity, and sure, there's an opportunity to reach a deal with Hezbollah. We prefer to have a deal that will allow the people to go back. Yoav Gallant in particular, he said, so long as they withdraw about 8 miles up north. So, to someone observing this, you'll see so many contradictions. Okay, you said you want to take them back to the Stone Age. You've been threatening that you will wipe them out. All-out war. You'll destroy Lebanon. You're going to use weapons you haven't used before. And now you're saying that. So much contradiction. Then you start to think, okay, what do they actually want to do? Well, you can't really anticipate what they want to do. You can read recent behavior and try and establish their future behavior. What's their recent behavior? A genocide, a full-blown destruction to demolish the weakest link in the resistance fronts. And they haven't achieved that with the weakest link. A campaign that was the worst option they could have opted for at the time. When the 7th of October happened, The scale of it is unprecedented. You have two bad options ahead. You either concede, try and talk, reach a solution, see what you can do, then go ahead and get your people back if you care about them. Clearly you don't. Or go on an invasion in Gaza that will not produce the results that you desire. And you know that. They still went ahead. Delusions, arrogance, blind, unprofessionalism, lack of strategic view, lack of strategic reading, amateurish behavior, fueled by Western powers, and lack of action from surrounding Arab states, apart from the resistance fronts, who are not kind of officially recognized even. So if you ask me personally, I'd say, well, they don't have the capacity to do anything effective. Why would they want to go and commit suicide? Their army is defeated. They have shortage of personnel. They have shortage of ammunition. Their political situation is awful. Societal situation is awful. All of them are saying they're facing existential threat. Why would you want to deepen that? Right? That's from a rational view. But then again, what they've been doing is only been deepening their problem and hastening their demise. They saw they're not getting results, they continued. They saw they cannot defeat the Palestinian resistance, they continued. They saw their people being killed in Gaza, they continued. By them, they're killing their people, like they killed their people in the Nova Festival, in Be'eri, in Nir Oz, in Ra'im. We spoke about this so many times with the statements that came out from the Israelis who were being shot at from the Israeli army. Most of the people died due to fire from the IDF. The pilots who confirmed we were ordered to shoot at everyone going back to Gaza, regardless of who and what they are. So judging by their recent behavior, they don't really think rationally, do they? So they might go ahead. Now, there are some who are warning. Are the recent statements of Benjamin Netanyahu and Yoav Gallant an interpretation of some sort of an understanding that's happening, or them listening? Is it a result of them listening to the security establishment, for example, or people who have been advising Netanyahu, although they hate him for the past 8 months, or not? So long as Benjamin Netanyahu and his government are in power and they are still in Gaza and they haven't reached a ceasefire deal, you have all options open, regardless of how devastating they would be for Israel, because clearly these people running the country are totally reckless and blind, arrogant, and they don't know what they're doing. And they're not listening to the people who have an ounce of knowledge. And that was from Brahim. Anwar is saying, Assalamu alaikum, if Hezbollah and Israel fall into conflict, would there be a chance that Hezbollah would take the fight to Israel? Or do you think that Hezbollah would stand their ground in Lebanon? Well, Hezbollah already took the fight to Israel. Most of the fighting most of the attacks are outside of Israel. Israel is defending itself. Hundreds of thousands fled the north. And Israel is not used to that. And it's not just me saying that, it's the Israelis are saying that. Leading figures in the security establishment. For the first time ever, we are conducting a fight in our own territories, from Hamas and from Hezbollah. From Hamas, when they controlled 1948 territories, with Hezbollah, by the fact that they're keeping Israel busy in Israel. UAVs, missiles, intel, specific targeting. So it's already there. But if you mean by that ground invasion, by the way, then absolutely. Plus, they wouldn't really have an environment to be that hostile anyway, because the territories are empty. They're exposed already. And there are reports coming from Lebanon that they already have things set, by the way, for the time. So it's not that they would, by the way, they would be coming in from Lebanon in many cases. In the cases, they would be inside of Israel already. And in so many ways. And obviously, you can have some ground invasion too. And obviously, thank you all for your super thanks. And Josie, also thank you. You said thank you for the updates. Washington is owned by foreign entity, Special AIPAC, who just spent $15 million on a congressional seat. Yeah, and it's as if it's normal. But if China does one thing, oh no, they lobby for the Communist Party in China. They're Russian traitors. They belong to the KGB. But an organization representing a foreign entity can operate. So that's why we call them a genocide cartel. You're not talking about sovereign nations here. Okay, I might have missed a couple of your comments here. The last one I can see now was as in the furthest back is from Eileen, saying that Israel has dropped more tons of explosives on Gaza than all bombs dropped since in London, Dresden, and Hamburg in all of World War II, and 5 times the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Over 80,000 tons, 85,000 tons of TNT on women and children. Gullyberg is Turkmenistan under the influence of Zionism. Many of the Eurasian countries, Israel has relations with many of them. Well, some of the biggest of them. If you look at Azerbaijan, for example. So there is influence there. And if you want to see influence, look at the action or lack thereof. Because lack of action is support. Chris Fisher, Israel is a mental state. They want to fight, but they don't have the resources. Their handler, the U.S., continue to provide to Israel and Ukraine, not to mention their defeated navy. Yeah, and they want to continue. Like now with the reports that Benjamin Netanyahu said we're open for settlement with Lebanon, Ben Gvir went out shouting, "What do you mean? Oh, it's only war. Only a war can do that. How comes we're not going on a full-blown war?" Although they haven't ruled out a war, by the way. Delusional. They are mental. You are talking about mental people. Someone said something about the mic. I hope the audio is okay. And Brother Al-Karaki, thank you so much for your super thanks. And Lindsay as well, thank you so much. Al-Karaki is saying, hello, my brother. Love to you. May God bless you. Did you hear? You too, my brother. Thank you. You said the Egyptian army is massing a significant force in Egyptian Rafah, including about 160 main battle tanks so far today. Well, they've been amassing from a very long time ago. Egypt already had over 100,000 troops 1 month in. They had their biggest military drill and military inspection, prepared for an all-out war. They have heavy equipment and special forces from a very long time ago. They're there. The question is, what are they doing? We haven't seen action. We haven't seen enough action from them. Blank stares also saying Israel's genocide against the Palestinians and constant war in the Middle East will be the downfall of the US. We're witnessing the downfall of the US. So, and this downfall, it doesn't necessarily come all at once. Downfalls can take decades. It's not that they come really quickly, but we're seeing the collapse slowly. I mean, it's accelerating now. Ukraine pushed it further. Gaza's accelerating it. And there are new equations in the region. And obviously the US wants damage control. Where Israel, although it's a US state, Israel, it doesn't have the same strategic view as the US. Some people in Israel share similar strategic views as the US, including people who had important positions, but not the people in power. And Munzer Shihab, brother, thank you so much for your super thanks. That was from Munzer. Thank you so much. I realized that opening two screens for comments makes life easier. Thank you, Munzer, for that. And we had... Okay, where were we with the live chat? Okay. If anyone has any more comments, if you wouldn't mind highlighting them in the live chat, please. Ida, thank you so much for your super thanks. You said, Salam everyone, how can the Middle Eastern countries be sleeping when Netanyahu has declared Israel's ultimate intention is to take over all of them? They're already in bed with him. They're already in bed with him. The finance minister, Smotrich, he had a conference. He attended a conference about 2 years ago. He had a map in front of him. That map was the map of the greater Israel, stretching from the Nile to the Euphrates. So this includes 5 other countries apart from Israel. You see, when we call them a neo-colonialist, expansionist state, apart from the other descriptions, a genocidal, apartheid, racist, neo-fascist state too, this is exactly what they are. They always look to expand. It was reported that Ben Gurion was asked one day, where are the borders of Israel? To which he responded, where are the foot of our last soldier sets? These are the borders of the state of Israel. That's Ben Gurion, one of the founding fathers of Israel, and the first and one of the longest serving prime ministers, now probably superseded by Benjamin Netanyahu. Some countries understand that. Look, Egypt understands that. To an extent, Jordan. To an extent. But if Israel decides to go on, and no one talks about preventative measures. No one talks about preventative measures. Although they are entitled by international law to conduct preemptive strikes against Israel, all of the countries surrounding Israel, by international law. If a country is reckless, is acting against the international law, if a country is viewed to be an aggressor country acting in a reckless manner, all that's protected in international law. But obviously, it's as if that doesn't exist. El Karaki, thank you so much for your super, my brother. You said, brother, if Dumpster Trumpster wins election, can he save little Bibi? Well, the same people, like I said in my previous video, the same people who fund him funded Netanyahu. Sheldon Adelson supports Netanyahu. Now that he died, Miriam Adelson is funding Donald Trump. So look at the money. Look who's funding who to understand what they're doing. Now, he might have had his small feuds with Bibi. He was upset that Bibi congratulated Biden in 2020 when he won the elections, when Donald Trump was still disputing them. But he'll overcome that because of the money. Sam Chow, I'm glad to hear that, my friend. You said you watch my channel every day. Thank you. Talal Mansour is saying 2 synagogues caught fire in Dagestan. And we had this attack in Dagestan a few days ago. It rots. It stinks of Western intel. Stinks. Bearded people conducting atrocities, right? And they'll call you in the name of Islam. They already tell them Islamist, right? Islamist. They have automatically Islamist. Israel has been committing genocide against the Palestinian people for 8 months. Do you call them the Judaists? The Judah terrorists? Did you call George Bush, who declared a crusade war against Iraq, did you call him a Christianist? A Christianist extremist? And this is, by the way, this is proper Western intelligence actions against Russia to destabilize them internally. anyone who goes and attacks worship places, synagogues, who are you serving? Who are you serving? Going and shooting innocent people. Who does that serve? Think about it. And who benefits? And who suffers? And Russia already blamed the US. They automatically, US, they know. They wouldn't blame their population. They're a multi-faith country, and they're proud of it. Putin, when he had this interview with Tucker Carlson, he told him, we're a country that has of different faiths, different ethnicities, and we celebrate that, and we respect that. Unlike certain Western politicians who will spread venom and call for hatred and discrimination against their own civilians from different religions. And I'm glad that Russia is aware of that, by the way. Ace Plays saying, Mahmoud, did you see the picture of Israelis stepping on the Saudi flag? Yet they want to normalize relations. Those men should wear the niqab and give us women the guns. You see, some of these Arab countries, it's as if they're delusional or willfully blind to Israel. But again, you think about it, talk about the people who are normalizing. Again, do they represent their population? Do they represent the sentiment of their people? Egypt, how long has it had a peace treaty for? Over 40 years now. Did the Egyptian people normalize relations with Israel? They did not. And obviously they had this peace treaty after they liberated their lands. But again, they underestimated Israel's evil. Gulliberg, will Butcher Blinken remain a foreign minister with the Orange Man? I don't think so. He will definitely put someone else. Don't forget during his term how many people he changed. How many people did Donald Trump change? It was such an unstable government because it's led by a narcissist. People coming in and out of the White House, including people who were really tied with him previously. Bolton, Bannon, all of them. Sam Lee is saying, Salaam alaikum, wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. The rumors of Afghans and Pakistanis fractions in Lebanon, any ideas of the numbers, and are there only Shia fractions that have gone to Lebanon? What are your thoughts? Jazakallah khairan wa iyyakum. Thank you so much. Well, there are certain movements in Afghanistan and Pakistan who are tied with Iran, who are predominantly Shia. They might have people who are outside of the Shia sect. They are definitely able to support Hezbollah if required, again, if that's required. Numbers, well, in terms of those who are armed and equipped and have experience, tens of thousands. The bigger bulk would be from Iraq if they need numbers, and from Yemen. Then you would be talking about millions in total, let alone Iran. By the way, I haven't talked about Iran yet. One of the biggest armies in the world. And my thoughts are, why do they exist? This is what I always think. Why do these movements exist? What's the reason? Look at the levels of injustices happening in that region. If you start with Palestine, where is the biggest resistance? In Gaza. Why is there a big resistance in Gaza? Because of the level of oppression. The more oppression you have, the more resistance you have. Remove the oppression, remove the injustice, remove the inequality. You won't have resistance. You will have political parties calling for reform or something different, change. But you want resistance for what? Resistance is a means. It's not an objective. It's not like an end game. It's means. It's a symptom to a virus. It's an antidote to a problem. A virus, a disease, whatever it is. What's the disease? Zionism. To be more specific, occupying, violent, racist, genocidal Zionism. That's why you have resistance. So it's pretty normal that they're there. Obviously, Iran as a country, they have their approach, their foreign policy, and they would rather have movements being active where they don't need to be active, so they don't receive implications. And again, that's a smart thing to do. And from what we've seen in the past 8 months, that's been effective. That's been quite effective. Ace Play, thank you so much for your super thanks as well. And Fiza, thank you so much for your super. Not the Average Joe, thank you so much for this, and everyone else for your comments and input. Comment in Arabic, Faris, I'll explain that. Well, Faris is telling me about mixing the people in Kuwait because they fully support Al-Aqsa flood. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I know that. Have I mentioned Kuwait in any bad way? I don't believe I have. And as a matter of fact, I've seen very good statements from Kuwait and from many of the Kuwaiti people as well. And I understand that there's a difference in their policies. Not all of the Gulf states are the same. If you see Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, they have different policies to Saudi Arabia or UAE, for example. Talal Mansour rumors Russia has upgraded weapons to supply to Syria, which could be used by Hezbollah. Do you think Putin's strategy is an act of revenge to the US? Putin's whole strategy is an attack of revenge of the US. Putin is seeing what the US is doing in Ukraine, and he knows it's targeted at him. It's nothing to do with freedom or democracy or anything as such. It's about US imperialism and hegemony. And look at what he's done. He went to North Korea. He went to Vietnam. He went to Cuba only recently. He's reviving all of the anti-US imperialism countries, let alone Hezbollah. There have been reports that Hezbollah had joint drills with the Russian forces in Syria. There were military drills. Russia already passed weapons to Hezbollah. Hezbollah already possessed Russian weapons. Have they been sold to the Syrians first and Syrians moved it to them? Could be. But Russia knows what's happening in Syria. As a matter of fact, they have the biggest impact and decision making when it comes to Syria, Russia. So they're seeing the US giving Ukraine things. Okay, I'll give Hezbollah things against your little puppet state over there. They know the game. They know the game, and it's not restricted to the Middle East. Their game is global. That's why, like I said, they just recently, reportedly they had a new defense deal with North Korea. Why would you want to go and do that out of the blue, by the way? Have you thought about it? Not many people were speaking about Kim Jong-un lately, but Putin decided to go there. For the first time in 20 years, goes to North Korea, speaks, he has a new treaty, and not many people know the ins and outs. Some people said it's similar to what we had before. Other reports, we support each other during an act of war. What does that mean? That North Korea can easily channel things to Russia. Not that they haven't before. And again, North Korea is the hammer of China. So where China can play diplomatically, they'll say, yeah, okay, well, North Korea did that. They have the deal, right? Not me. So what they're doing is very calculated, and what the US is doing in Ukraine is considered in the equation when it comes to the Russian behavior. And they already have supported Hezbollah, and they constantly do. Blank stares, thank you so much. I don't know how much I would like to, if ever, maybe go into politics. You know, you wouldn't, unless, you know, nothing is hindered when it comes to saying things as they are. Thank you for that. Cupcake L, who could govern Gaza after the war is over? Hamas, a new organization? Many can govern it, but I think we should think about who should govern it. Who should govern it is the people who the population of Gaza choose. And the people of Gaza democratically elected Hamas. And no one is entitled to speak on behalf of the people of Gaza. So they would be the ones who are entitled. But there are many options. Now Yoav Gallant is coming with a plan. I'll publish hopefully publish a detailed video about it. He has a plan now of splitting Gaza into 24 parts. 24 parts. And and now Benjamin Netanyahu is saying he no longer minds if the Palestinian Authority comes back to Gaza. He used to say, we don't want a Hamas stan, we don't want a Fatah stan. Now he says, I don't mind if Fatah comes back to Gaza, actually. So he's climbing down the ladder. Tomorrow he'll say, I don't mind if Hamas stays as well. No problem. We reached a deal. And then he'll continue passing the millions again, like he did with the previous millions in previous years, prior to 7th of October. And they're saying, oh, UAE forces are coming and Saudi forces or whatever. But Hamas already told you, we'll treat everyone coming without our consent as an occupying force. Why would they want to put themselves in that situation? Did she come as Hezbollah released any more military targets from Hudud? They published another video with detailed information without saying what it is. Without saying what it is. And you need to understand what we saw was about, 1-2 minutes? The whole recording is reportedly 7 hours. That's from the first part. And it reportedly went back to Lebanon. So what's there in the rest of the 7 hours? And what's in part 2? Clearly, they're sending messages to the people who need to get the message. My ultimate mixtape, thank you so much. And that looks like, hold on a second. Mel Gon is saying, Mahmoud, why is it okay for Israel to obtain nuke and Iran not? It's because they're the chosen ones. What do you mean? They're the chosen ones. Iran is not the chosen one. So, if you're the chosen one, you're entitled. If you're not the chosen one, you're not entitled. It's the typical double standards and hypocrisy of Western powers, banging on 24/7 about Iran having nukes. And they have 7,000 warheads. They'll destroy the Earth, the Moon, and Jupiter a couple of times. But Iran, no, we can't have nuclear weapons. Who are you to tell them they can't have nuclear weapons? You have 7,000, get rid of them. Lead by example. But Israel, an Israeli Vanunu, leaks information about a secret Israeli nuclear project. And Israeli leaders, including previous Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, indirectly confirming that Israel has nuclear weapons. A minister in the government saying we should nuke Gaza. No one talks about that. Why? Because they're the chosen ones. Because they are the chosen ones. But Iran, they're not the chosen ones. And we'll finish it there. Looks like that was the last one. Okay, guys, thank you so much for joining me. It was really nice being with you for this live stream. Many thanks to all of you for your dedication and for your regular viewership. And thank you to all of the new members, new subscribers as well, and of all of our dedicated veterans now. A special thanks to everyone who sent super thanks as well. Thank you so much. That's from Terry Blank, someone, Brahim, Anwar, Josie, El Karaki, Lindsay, Munzer, Aida, El-Karaki, Ace, and Fiza. Thank you so much for your super thanks. I really appreciate it. And everyone else for your kind comments. And I'm sorry again if I missed some of your comments, by the way, but I appreciate them nevertheless. Apart from that, enjoy your Friday evening or day or night, depending on where you are. Thank you so much for joining me. I'll hopefully be with you tomorrow. If you haven't watched my short videos that I published earlier on and you're interested in watching, you can go ahead. They're on the video section. And mind you, by the way, if you're new and if you haven't, if you're not familiar with this, the live is in the live section, the video is in the video section on YouTube. So if you're looking for the recent live stream, look for the live section. Likewise, with anything updated in the community, you'll go to the community tab. That's just because some people are not really aware how it works. I'm sure some of you do, but for those of you who don't know, all of my live streams will be found on the live section. Again, thank you so much everyone for joining me. Take care, have a lovely evening, good night, peace be on all of you, and I'll see you soon in the next video. Salam everyone.